Grand Rising Kings, Queens, Gods, Goddesses, multi-exclusive, dimensional being, God with another exclusive. Today's video is going to be about the Sun and Taurus. So now the Sun is your actions. The Sun is what you're consciously aware of. And of course, when that goes into Taurus, Taurus is fixed Earth. So of course, if it wasn't for the Earth, if it wasn't for stability, if it wasn't for building or grounding, there won't be items, or there won't be material, or there won't be suggestions. Now you got Aries as in the visionaries, aka they're very initiative and creative when it comes to visions and expressions and fire. But of course, without that fire, you're gonna have to need the water, which is the cardinal water, and of course, you're gonna need cardinal air to relate that, which is Libra here. And of course, you're gonna need cardinal earth to construct that. And of course, once you take care of the cardinal perspectives, you're gonna have pretty much what we would call it the fixed perspectives. Now, fixed signs is basically fixing things, making sure it's being constructed, fixing things, make sure it's being prepared and ready. This way, they can be consistent and focus on one thing. Now, when you got Taurus here, they're fixed earth, so they're being fixated on building the earth, making sure the ground is constructed, making sure the grass is being taken care of, making sure the ground is firm to be able to walk on. Now, of course, after that perspective play out, you got the mutable signs. Mutable, being able to adapt to other people's ways of thinking to communicate, being able to adapt to other people's feelings and emotions, being able to adapt to other people's ways of thinking to communicating. And of course, these are the mutable signs. Mutable, aka this is the death stage, as in the physical perspectives, because you got birth, life, and death. Now, death comes in threes, but you never die. You're immortal. Energy can never be destroyed, can only be reciprocated. Now, when you got Sun and Taurus, we're all going to be expressing ourselves in a more mature way, in a more stabilized way, in a more constructive manner. Now, things got to make sense here. So the way we express ourselves is going to be more in a take your time manner. Also, the Sun is fixed. So that means it's in the sky to be fixated on his way of expressing that sunlight, that shine. So of course we're gonna be getting hit with all the UV rays when we're talking about Sun and Taurus. Also, you're gonna have Uranus here, which is gonna cause disruption, construction, chaos, and of course you're gonna be seeing more protests. You're gonna be seeing more situations and things playing out of shortages, food shortages, because you got Uranus and Taurus. Now Uranus is basically bringing change, revolution, freedom. Of course, that's here on the earth too. So it's going to be a whole lot of changes going on. So now is the time to get more stable, more financial wise, and making sure that whatever you're working on, make sure it's making sense. Make sure you're being practical with it. Make sure you're making it a routine, a daily construct. This way, everything can start growing into your favors. You won't have no flaws. You won't have no mismatches. Everything will basically start to play out into a representation as far as how you need to deal things, get things going, and get things flowing. Now, this is the time to take things serious. This is the time to be more stable. This ain't the time to basically be lost into many ideas and concepts, because, you know, Tauruses like to take their time. So now the Sun is in Taurus. The sun in Taurus is telling you to take time with your actions. Don't jump into things very quickly. Make sure you analyzing things. Make sure you're looking at the details. But we're going to soon get into that Mercury and Taurus perspective. Of course, when the Sun is here, it's wanting you to express things. So when we got the Sun here, when it comes to the Sun and Taurus in your first house, you're going to be basically expressing your personality in a more stabilized way, in a way for it to make sense. Because we all have a personality. So if you're expressing it, you need to be expressing it towards self. But you need to be working on yourself as far as how you can construct yourself in a more take your time manner. Things got to take its time. Things got to take its toll. You can't be expressing and just jumping into things without it having no meanings, because you're going to look opposite, because of course we're in a new space and location now. So with this being said, things got to be more constructed. So you got to express your personality in a more stabilized way, in a stabilized manner. Now, if you got Taurus in the second house, this is where it loves to be at. So now your actions is going to be basically based upon your values. So whatever you're valuing, it has to make sense during this time. So whatever you value, if it don't have no purpose, if it don't have no meaning, then it's going to get ready to transform out your life. But of course, if you're making it a routine, and of course you put in the right seeds in that area, in the second house, you're going to be great. Now, if you got Taurus in the third house, when it comes to conversation, communication, surroundings, if it don't make sense, then it don't make dollars. So, of course, with that being said here, is if things is not helping you in the perspective as far as creating and getting money and being more situated, then of course it's gonna go bye-bye. If you got Sun and Taurus in the fourth house, well, if you have anything, if your Sun is in the fourth house, when it comes to family, roots, and home, you might just be loved during this time. Everything will basically be stabilized, but of course, it's gonna be more into your comfortability when it comes to home, privacy, and family, and the roots that you basically create and build. If these things don't really make sense, then you, of course, you're gonna be making sure it makes sense, and of course, you're gonna be in the process of not trying to change things around too. You want to make sure things are stabilized, make sure a home is safe, make sure a home is comfortable, security and security wise. Now, if you got this in the fifth house, when it comes to your actions and expressing yourself, whatever you expressing gotta make sense during this time. If it don't make sense, Sun and Taurus ain't gonna basically be able to cope with it. So whatever you expressing, make sure you're working on it. Make sure you're making sure all the bridges and tunnels that you're creating for it. Make sure these things is being expressed in a more harmonious manner, in a more careful, safe, practical manner. Practice makes perfect. So whatever you're trying to create into this existence, as long as you basically being more stable with it, and of course making it more practical, a routine, it's gonna basically take the shape and form and all possibilities. Got this in the sixth house. When it comes to work, schedule, routine, see, this is gonna be a trine. It's gonna be like pretty much this is where it's at, aka the earth sign. So you're gonna be basically getting deep into details when it comes to your work, your routine, and your status, scheduling, making sure everything is making sense, and removing untangible items during this time to make it more tangible. That's what you're gonna be working on. Plant good seeds and you'll be alright. If you got this Sun and Taurus in the seventh house, when it comes to relationships, if it don't make sense as far as how y'all relating or how y'all conducting yourself and doing partnerships and business, then that means things is gonna change. People, places, and things are gonna go off because everything is just seasonal perspectives. So if it ain't seasoned right, then it's not gonna work into your perspective. Now, if you got the Sun in the eighth house, when it comes to desires and things that you value, if it don't make sense, then it's not going to be here anymore. It's going to transform, aka leave you. Now it's going to be a placement as to where, how bad you want it. You feel me? And it's up to you to make sure these things is being met and required. Now, it's in your hands, it's in your power, it's in your controls. So whatever desires or things that motivate you, if it don't make sense, if it don't make dollars, then it's not going to construct it. And the reason why I keep saying it don't make sense, it don't make dollars, because Taurus is more hear, feel, see, smell, touch. So they're dealing with the five senses, and of course they love comfortability, they love being stabilized, they love money, they love security, they love home. So, and they work very hard. So whatever you're working on, if it don't have a dollar behind it, if it don't have a purpose behind it, then of course you're not going to feel the need to basically work behind it. You're basically going to be working for free, and who's doing that? Nobody. Also, when you got Sun and Taurus in the ninth house, you're going to be basically making sure that whatever you're expressing as far as your wisdom and knowledge and your experiences, if it don't hold no weight, then of course it's going to go through changes. And Sun and Taurus is begging you to basically start all over and make sure that shit makes sense. No matter what you're preaching, no matter what you're teaching, if it don't make sense, then it's not going to come off in a more constructive manner. Now, when it comes to Sun and Taurus in the 10th house, when it comes to your business, your career goals, or whatever you're expressing, if it don't make sense, if it ain't taking the shape and form of things getting corresponded, then of course you're going to feel the need to basically break away from this process. And of course, you got to try again. But yeah, you're going to make sure to get right this time too. Also, we got the Sun and the Taurus in the 10th house. This is basically your career, your status, what you're known for. Now, if your career and status is not known for anything, if it don't make sense, and of course, if it's not building or constructing, you're going to feel the need to basically retreat and go towards areas where it's going to construct, areas where it's going to be contained, areas where it's going to be built. Now, if you got the Sun and Taurus in the 11th house, when it comes to groups, associations, whatever y'all communicating, whatever visions or goals that y'all trying to create and correlate, if it don't make sense, then of course y'all going to feel the need to basically switch it up, or y'all going to go through some changes when it comes to your association or whoever you associate yourself with. Now, when it comes to Pisces, aka 12th house, when you got the Sun and Taurus in the 12th house, you're going to have opportunities. during this time to basically make a dream make sense, or that dream is going to be an illusion, a fantasy, which you can get lost into. Don't get lost into that perspective. Make sure everything makes sense. And when you got Mercury in the first house, you're gonna be thinking more stable when it comes to your personality. Now, if your personality is not being thought in a stable, practical manner, then of course everything is gonna feel chaotic and catastrophic. You're gonna be all over the place. Mercury in the second house, you're gonna be thinking about your values and your stability in a more practical manner. Now, if it don't make dollars, if it don't make sense, then of course everything is gonna be chaotic with your values and the things that you value. So you're gonna be valuing your thinking during this time. When it comes to Mercury and Taurus in the third house, you're gonna be basically thinking and valuing your surroundings. Now, if your surroundings is not bringing no harmonious peace or good vibes, then of course you're gonna feel the need to separate from your surroundings, or people, places, things gonna be separating from you during this time. Mercury in the fourth house, when it comes to this perspective, you're going to be valuing, thinking, and communicating about your family, your roots, things that you love to do, how you love to feel, how you love to express yourself, and love and nurture and care. If these things is unstable, these things can be unstable, or these things can be stable depending on what seeds you're planting, or whoever you're around with. Mercury and Taurus in the fifth house, the way you think and communicate, whatever you valuing or expressing, you could be valuing and expressing the wrong things, or other people, places, things can be valuing and expressing the wrong things to you. You got to pick your poison. Whatever works for you, whatever, how you expressing yourself. If it's working, cool. If it's not, switch it up. Mercury and Taurus in the sixth house, you're going to be thinking of valuing your work, what you love to do on a day-to-day basis, a routine, a schedule, a pattern. And if it don't make dollars, then of course it ain't going to make sense. Now, you can go through some changes here during this time with your health. If you're thinking too overcritically and stressing about things, don't do that. Just take your time and everything will be all right. Mercury and Taurus in the seventh house, you're going to be valuing your relationships and your love matters and your romance. You can experience breakups, or you can experience makeups during this time. Exes can be coming soon, or people, places, and things, whoever you relate with and partnership with, can take its expansion or contraction. It depends on how y'all displaying your seeds. Are you grouping yourself and relating yourself with the right individuals or no? Mercury and Taurus in the eighth house, you're going to be thinking and valuing about your desires, how you truly feel about things, how you can truly feel and be more passionate, especially when it comes to relationships or materialistic things. Make sure these things is being processed in the right perspective. Now, you could lose these things or gain these things. It's up to you. Mercury and Taurus in the ninth house, you're going to be thinking and communicating and valuing about your experiences, your wisdom, your knowledge. Now, these things can change during this time, too. Especially if it don't hold no weight, and if it don't hold no value, if it don't make sense. You're going to be questioning about your morality during this time. Make sure you're thinking in a harmonious perspective and making the right seeds flow. Now, if you got Mercury and Taurus in the 10th house, you're gonna be thinking and communicating about your you're gonna be thinking and communicating and valuing about your status, your career, what success and how success is gonna be formulated. Now, these things can play out in a good perspective or a bad perspective. You can lose yourself or you can regain yourself. It depends on how you think, because your mind creates your reality. So without that mind in a right positive perspective or space, the motherfucker, you're gonna be down here vibrating with a tool that's not gonna be able to actually get the tools flowing to make sure your status grow. But it's up to you during the time. If you got Mercury and Taurus in the 11th house, you're gonna be thinking and valuing about your association, people, places, and things, or people, places, and things can be valuing you. These things can change because, of course, it hates being here. Taurus hates being here. So, of course, there can be some conflict. It can be some squares. It can be some obligations and duties that you may not be wanting to feel the need to basically correspond with. So you may be in the process of separating or pushing on or moving on. Now, if you got Mercury and Taurus in the 12th house, you're going to be thinking and communicating and valuing about your dreams. What makes you ascend. Now, you can ascend or descend during this time. It's up to you. Make sure your dreams have a practical plan, because Mercury and Taurus, yeah, I hear what you're saying about them dreams. They sound real good, but of course, if it ain't got a practical plan, then what the fuck is the purpose of us even basically wasting our time? Feel me? So yeah, that's how it's gonna play out. But of course, as long as you're making things make sense and being more practical, everything will be basically gifted and oriented for you. Now, yeah, that's about it.